All right, guys, we are back again. This is going to be the 5th full training session that you're going to see. And based on the comments, this works out really well. I see a lot of you guys wanted me to go over arm training. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. Do biceps, we're going to do triceps. I'm going to explain to you all what exercises and why I choose to do these. And I think this is why I had superior arm development throughout my bodybuilding journey. Sure, yeah, a lot of people are going to say genetics, which I do have great genetics with my arms, because they're still over 20 at retirement. But anyways, we're going to go over this. I'm going to show you why and how I got mine to where they are, and hopefully you can use this to build your own arms as well. So let's get going. Okay, so as I'm planning my workouts, I don't like to just blindly go to the gym and just do what's available. I like to strategically think things out. I feel like I've been doing this since I was a teenager as well. I think this served me very well throughout my career, and hopefully you guys can learn something from this. So I'm going to start with a rope push down. I'm going to kind of explain a couple of things. One, I start with that movement, and I think any veteran bodybuilder will tell you that it's easy on the elbows, right? Because 20 years doing this, you will thank me later on that. So I start with this. This is going to be a full range of motion, slightly shortened position because I try to keep my elbows back. I don't want my elbows going forward like this. Again, I'm trying to keep it in a shortened range as possible. So that's going to be my opening exercise. I do 2, 3, 4 warm-ups, whatever needed. I'll do 3 sets. I'm aiming for an 8 to 12 rep range, preferably on the bottom side of that. So as you guys see, if I'm either not getting a full lockout or I'm at least attempting that last rep, taking it all the way to failure. Okay, so next movement, I'm going to do a dip machine. It's not my favorite. I like the hammer strength dip machine because mostly, at least the ones I've experienced with, have a thing for your feet, because once you're going so heavy, if you're going heavier than your body weight, you start lifting off the machine, which sucks because I want to go heavier than my body weight. Thankfully today, this was the max weight on the machine, and you can see I'm leaning forward. I'm trying to grab the machine with my heels to keep myself in place. So I'm like kind of teeter-tottering right there. I don't weigh 250 pounds, what the machine is. It goes to show you the weight's not accurate. But if I were to push down really fast with this, I'm going to come off the machine. So I went a little extra slow on the contractions to keep myself in position. And I also had to angle myself to make this work. But I feel like it was safe, effective, smooth, and I got a great tricep pump from it. So 3 sets there. Again, 8 to 12 was my target on the bottom end of that. Okay, third movement. I'm doing skull crushers here. I'm doing these a little different than the way I used to, and neither one is right or wrong. I'm going to kind of explain both. I personally feel doing them the way that I'm doing right now, I'm getting more out of the contraction part of this, and I'm taking the weight, again, to my skull, making it a legitimate skull crusher. So I did catch myself using the monkey grip. Don't do that. Don't be like me. Make sure your hands is wrapped around that. Otherwise, you may find out why it's called a skull crusher if you drop that weight. So 3 sets here, again, aiming 8 to 12. Now I got ahead of myself. I used to do these kind of like, I take the bar kind of behind my head as I'm coming down. That's going to give you more stretch on this movement. That wasn't my goal this time, so just keep that in mind. So if you see somebody doing it a little bit different, one's not wrong over the other one, but they are different movements and they are going to feel a little bit different. So pick your poison on that. Okay, so last movement we're going to do here for triceps is an overhead extension. These I tend to like to save towards the end because if you have any elbow pain, which I have dealt with off and on throughout my career, I don't want that shit to come back, so I keep things at bay. This movement triggers it for me and a lot of people. However, it is a staple to having big triceps. Doing an overhead movement, put your triceps in a shortened position. No, sorry, lengthened position. I haven't had enough coffee today, so I'm a little bit backwards. But this is going to be a lengthened position, so it's really going to hit your triceps well. And a couple of pointers that I do on this that I see other people not doing on it. You'll notice I only use like a 30 to 35 pound dumbbell. I do that for two reasons. One, I want to keep all the tension on the tricep and not going through the joint, hence joint pain, elbow pain. So there's your double whammy. But the way that I do this, if you look at the video, especially the ones that we shot straight on today, my humerus bone here is either straight up and down, or like say I'm using my left hand, I'll have this slightly over this way because as that weight's pulling down with gravity, it keeps the tension on my tricep and not the center of gravity going straight through my shoulder and my elbows. Not to mention, when the arm goes this way, it's going to allow your delts to kick out, or sorry, your delts to kick in a little bit to move the weight when you get fatigued. So again, I would rather have less weight and still get the job done working my triceps and not screwing up my joints. So that's my tip for triceps. All along, we're going to do biceps now. Okay, so second movement on the menu, I'm doing a cable preacher curl, and you can use the preacher curl machine if you have one, but I don't have one, so this is how I improvise on this. And I chose this over a dumbbell because with the dumbbell, when your arm gets to a certain point, there's really no tension up here. But with the cable, I'm able to keep tension all the way from start to finish of this movement. So that was my objective on this. And honestly, this is probably my favorite bicep exercise because I feel an intense pulling, stretching on this movement, and I feel an intense pump as well. So I highly recommend doing these. Okay, third thing on the menu, staple pretty much every bicep workout that I do is an incline dumbbell curl. Sometimes I'll do these with a cable and just simply like walk away so it pulls my arm back. But the goal is to try to get my elbow just slightly behind my torso. So that way I'm training my bicep in a fully lengthened position. And as I'm curling up, I'm not using my elbow to drive up. I want to keep it in this position the entire time. All right, so fourth movement I'm going to do here is a hammer curl. And these can be done cross body, however you want to do them. but it's really good for the forearm, the brachialis. It's good at making this bicep thicker. So that's why I choose that movement. You can do them at the beginning if you want. You can do them towards the end if you want. I personally prefer that I benefit more towards the end. That's just how I feel with my body. So use that for what you wish, but I've always kind of finished with this movement, and I don't really go super heavy on this. I still take it to failure, but I mean heavy as in heavy weight, because I'm trying, again, to keep these elbows locked out. I'm not trying to get underneath of the weight just to say that I moved a bigger dumbbell. So the last thing I finish with here is a cable movement, and the reason I'm choosing these is I want to be able to train the bicep in a shortened position, but unfortunately, it seems like LA Fitness is like the only gym that has this particular machine that I'm going to try to describe to you guys. You sit into it, your arm is up here. So when you elevate that humerus, you're shortening the bicep. So my goal behind doing these is I'm trying to get my arm over my head in order to shorten the bicep. Just kind of wanted to explain that to you guys. That way you're not just doing a random cable curl just for the sake of doing a cable curl. There's a reason why I set this up the way that I set it up. If you have the machine, I highly recommend doing the machine. It's just easier, less setup. All right, so that wraps up 30 working sets for biceps and triceps combined. This is pretty typical for me. I have been known to go much higher on that, anywhere between 30 sets for biceps and 30 sets for triceps at my peak. But obviously, life is a little bit different now, and I don't do that, but I still like higher volume than most people. And back to the topic I brought up in the beginning of this video with genetics. People always like to pull the genetic card when you see someone with a dominant body part. And if you want to get under my skin really fast, claim genetics, because you're going to piss me off really quickly. But anyways, aside from that, I never had that good of arms like when I was younger as a teenager. I noticed when I was training like Max OT, which you guys are familiar with, like DC dog crap training, it's kind of a similar style approach. I had mediocre arms, not bad, not good, it's kind of balanced. But I found that whenever I scratched those ideologies and then I went over and started doing higher volume, higher reps, started incorporating different advanced techniques, my arms just kind of exploded out of nowhere. So there is a little bit of method to the madness here, and it worked good for me. And from my experience now of 22 years in this sport, of watching myself evolve, watching my friends evolve, and then being able to coach people and watch them evolve, this seems to be a higher volume, that is, seems to be a much more practical approach for growing your arms. So give it a shot, guys. Increase your volume a little bit. If you need to, try to increase your frequency as long as your body will recover in between workouts. See if that works and see if that doesn't add some size to your arms. Over and out.